welcome to you, Mr. Turner. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. Can you hear me?
Excellent, I can.
Good.
We're having to do something that we've never had to do before. We're having to check if we can hear each other, because these are strange times we find ourselves in, aren't they, my friend?
They are indeed, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, country's on lockdown. I've got 12 weeks of 4 walls.
12 weeks.
12
so,
weeks.
I mean, that's something I'd definitely like to talk to you about, if I may. Just to welcome everyone. Hello. This is episode 2 of Commusician Podcast, the podcast where a comedian, myself, and a musician,
Me.
It's not quite as seamless when we're not next to each other, but it's a podcast where a comedian and musician meet, or in this case, for the next few weeks at least, have a virtual chat.
Virtual chat.
Exactly, where we discuss the world. And yeah, I think it's fairly unprecedented times that we find ourselves in at the moment. So we are going to touch on that. We'll let you know kind of where we are, what's going on. But crucially, I think it sounds a bit off perhaps to say it's our duty, but certainly our objective is to try and bring a bit of light entertainment to what is otherwise a pretty bleak time, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think as a country, if you're doing what you're told, we're all sat at home not doing a lot. So I think we can all pick up the Hoover and chuck in an episode of Commusician and have a listen, and we'll try and make your day a bit brighter.
It's very interesting to me that the activity you've paired with listening to our podcast is a loud Hoover. Why on earth would someone listen to a podcast while hoovering?
Oh, 'cause you put headphones in, you drain out the Hoover, don't you?
Well, mate, I do not have noise cancel. I nearly gave a brand away then. I do not have noise cancelling headphones, so perhaps that's why.
It's not the BBC. We can talk brands.
We can talk brands. That's true. Maybe one day. So, first of all, I would love to say thank you to everyone who listened to and gave us feedback for our first episode. We had a lot of fun.
and we had some amazing feedback.
We really did. I don't know. Have you got your parents to listen to it out of curiosity?
I've got my mum to listen to it, not my dad yet.
Okay, so I had some really interesting feedback. My dad had a listen and listened to some of it and enjoyed it. I'm not sure what happened, but he's a very busy man. But I had I'll call it a pleasure of trying to get my mum to download it. My mum's never downloaded a podcast before, and I'm not able to see her because of this isolation thing. So I had to do it kind of over the phone, and I managed to get her to get it onto her phone. So she's downloaded Commusician episode 1, and then just as I said, "Oh, well done, that's really good," she went, 49 minutes. And I was like, brilliant. But hopefully she's enjoyed it as well. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who has both listened, subscribed, and also if you've got in touch with us as well. We're really, really pleased to hear from you, and it means the world. So thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree. Just.
You thought I was going somewhere else there, didn't you?
A little bit, yeah.
So why don't we, if it's all right, Sam, so why don't you explain to the listener, if you don't mind, kind of your situation, because you're in a fairly unique position, I would say, or well, not unique, but you've got a situation on your hands, let's say.
Yeah, so I've got my letter in the post, like a Willy Wonka's golden ticket. And it basically said I've got to stay indoors for a minimum of 12 weeks. The reason being is because I've got Crohn's disease and one kidney. So one kidney, obviously a bit of an issue, but the main thing is that I'm on immunosuppressants for the Crohn's disease.
Okay.
So if I was to catch it, it could be fatal.
Definitely not a good situation.
No, exactly. So I've had to move back to my mum's house. I can't see Jodie, my girlfriend, for 12 weeks. So it's going to be a long old slog.
Oh, man.
I'm just kind of, just sat at home, really not doing a lot. So if anybody's got any ideas of what I could do, holler.
Edit some podcast. Excuse me. I said to you off mic before we kind of started recording, I will happily treat me as your partner. I'll be in a relationship with you for the next 12 weeks.
That's very kind.
There are limits to what I can and will do, but I'm certainly here for you, mate. And if you do have any ideas for Sam, then tweet us, Instagram us, Facebook us. Where could someone do that if they wanted to get in touch with you, Sam?
Oh, that's a very good point. So,
smooth segue.
The socials are at commusicianpod, and our email address is commusicianpod@gmail.com. So get in touch, and I'll probably be at home, so I'll reply within the next 5 minutes as soon as it comes in.
Yes.
So
probably be at home.
Probably be at home. Yeah, absolutely. But no, it's it is what it is. It's got to be done because I want to live after all of this. And it's a really scary time.
It is a really scary time, and I think we're lucky in the sense that it's nowadays you've got the internet, you've got things like YouTube. So, I intend to use this time to learn some more skills, and I'd like to think that I've got the option to do that. It's very, very convenient that this whole lockdown was announced the day before Disney Plus started being available. That, I think, is brilliant.
Yeah.
Have you signed up to Disney Plus out of curiosity?
I have, indeed.
Have you? Nice.
So I've signed up to that. I haven't watched anything yet because I'm trying to get my way through Doctor Who.
You got the time, though, my friend.
Exactly. What's really funny is that when I got the letter, I was like 12 weeks. Oh, that's not too bad. And then I asked my virtual assistant on my phone, what date will it be in 12 weeks? And it was like the 16th of June. I was just like,
middle of June.
Jesus. Right. It's not only the coronavirus is kind of, I say taken away, but it's unfortunately had to stop me going to see Rob Beckett. And it stopped us going to see Frank Turner. But now that's even impacted. I had a holiday booked for May, just a little getaway in North Devon, so that stopped that. And I don't know whether I'll be able to, but at the end of June I've got tickets to see Hamilton. So
fingers crossed, mate. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I think people haven't been aware of, and I'm sure none of our listeners are those idiots that are still going out regardless, but it's a very odd time. It's the 25th of March as we're recording now, and who knows what things are going to happen, but certainly we are in lockdown. We're encouraged to not leave the house at all unless we can help it. You can exercise. I mean, I've got dogs to walk, so I will certainly have to be exercising, but it is an unusual time. So with that in mind, I think that the reason we mention that is because we're in a slightly different situation in that we're not in a pub and we're not having a pint after a long day at work. Instead, it's not even lunchtime yet, and we're having I've just had a cup of tea.
I'd second that. A cup of tea and a pint of squash.
Different, and if there is a victim in this whole coronavirus situation, then the publican trade is certainly one of them. And I for one hope that as a nation we go and support those places as soon as we can afterwards, because they're going to be a party on the streets, I think, when there can be.
Absolutely, 100%.
So.
Yeah, I've got 3 beers left in the fridge at the moment, and I'm rationing them like crazy because I can't get out to buy anymore. I made the error. I had the opportunity a few days ago when I was at a shop, and I was like, do you know what? It won't do me any harm to not have any beers in the house. I'll do some running, I'll do some press ups, and I miss beer, and I really want one. But never mind, never mind. Absolutely, and
perhaps it's an opportunity for a beer delivery service to sponsor us. So if they are mentioned in a few podcasts' time, then the subliminal messaging works.
Absolutely, yeah, or the not so subliminal messaging.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Give us beer.
Give us beer. So the world is madness. I'm in isolation. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I'm not in isolation at my own home. I'm in isolation at my in-laws. Yeah. So I've got a little girl who's nearly 2 who had a bit of a fever. So we are now on lockdown for at least 2 weeks. So it is me, my partner, my little girl, 4 teenagers, 2 older parents, Gemma's parents, 3 dogs, 3 cats, and the only place I could find for any solitude for us to record this is a 14-year-old girl's bedroom. So, it's an odd time for us all. We're all making sacrifices.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm very aware that there's probably lots of jokes about that, but no need to tweet us or anything.
That's a bad day, or that's a bad time right there.
It's an interesting time, for sure. Like I say, would have been fine if I just picked up that case of beer the other day, but never mind.
Very good. Well, I hope all goes well for you, and if you do feel like it, put some cameras around. I'm sure that we could get a lot of viewers on that on our socials.
Yes, absolutely. Day 4 in quarantine house. Fitz has lost his mind and is talking to the shed, which is a very real possibility. I mowed a lawn yesterday, and I honestly would say it's the most manly thing I've done in quite some time. I'm very proud.
Well, you say that. I cleaned up my shed yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not going to be in my bedroom today. I'm going to start that tomorrow, like a little bit of teenage defiance, and went into a shed and cleaned it out.
So are you legit going to be in like a room for the next 12 weeks? Is that what it is?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I've got
and food outside your door and stuff like that.
Pretty much. You can use the kitchen, but the kitchen will have to be essentially disinfected before I go in it and after I come out of it.
Man alive.
Yeah, it's super scary.
It is super scary. Well, we will. Do you know what? We will lift the spirits, and I'm really excited for this episode. We've got a load of really great ideas for some episodes, but we would also love to hear yours. So do get in touch with us. How can people get in touch, Samwise? Remind us, please.
I can remind you. They can get in touch on email, which is commusicianpod@gmail.com, or they can get us on all of the socials, which is @commusicianpod.
Wonderful stuff.
Indeed.
So let's get ready to rumble, because I think the whole aim of what we're doing, it is obviously, let's not put too fine a point on it. It's a pretty rubbish time at the moment. The number one concern is that you and your friends and family are safe, and we hope that you are all looking after yourselves. Wash your hands, whatever you do. Oh my God, there is militant hand washing going on in here. But
really?
That's a story for another day, but oh yes. Suffice to say, the message is being received loud and clear. And when I say loud, I mean loud and clear. But do wash your hands, it's very important.
Cool. So, Fitz, on with the pod.
On with the pod, indeed, yes. An exciting topic this week.
It is, yeah. We're going to talk about first gigs this week. So, not just the first gigs that we performed, but the first gigs that we went to see.
Very true.
As spectators, I guess you would call them.
I mean, I wouldn't use the word spectators. I think my first gig was quite cool, which we'll come on to. And if you'd said to me afterwards, "Oh, what did you do last night?" I wouldn't have said, "Oh, I went and spectated a rock band." No, I would say I was a fan or I went to a gig. You attend a gig, don't you?
Yeah. I guess you attend, not spectate. That's a very good point. Good.
I sound old.
But what we did, a little bit. But what we did on the social medias, we put out a question asking people what their first gigs were, and we got some great responses.
We really did, and actually, very quickly, just thank you to everyone. We were really, really touched with how many people got in touch, and we're touched with how many people got in touch. And but it's a really interesting question, isn't it? Because the whole notion of a first gig, you ask someone, "Oh, what was the first gig you ever went to?" And depending on their answer, you can be quite judgmental about it, can't you? And
absolutely,
it either makes you really cool, as with many of the people that we are going to share their stories now, or it kind of doesn't. And
yeah, absolutely. Very similar to Alice Fitzhenry. I'm presuming your
Alice
sister?
Fitzhenry is my little sister. Yeah, one of my
go.
little sisters. Yeah.
So her first gig, this kind of defines you as a person, was JLS.
Yes.
But it does say with the one and only. Who's the one and only, Fitz?
The one and only would be me. So I took my little sister to see JLS. There were other bands on, but it was in I think it was at Powderham Castle maybe in Exeter, and yeah, I was I was old enough to drive and cool enough to go to JLS. But it was really convenient that she wanted to go, actually, because I was a big fan of JLS back in the day, and I would have gone on my own.
Well, just so you know, they have, reformed.
They have.
So,
I've heard this. Yeah, that's it's not so much high on my agenda now. I think going as an 18-year-old lad with a younger sister is one thing, but going as a 34-year-old man on my own, that's an entirely different kettle of fish.
And if I buy you a ticket for your birthday, will you go on your own?
I don't want to see the ticket wasted, mate. If you buy me a ticket for my birthday, then as long as you come with me, then we'll live stream it to our glorious listeners.
That is a deal right there.
Oh God! So if you didn't listen last week, by the way, we please go back. But we agreed that if we get 10,000 subscribers, Sam and I will get the Commusician logo tattooed on our persons. Not necessarily on the same place, but Sam's got a glorious arm tattoo, and I personally don't want to ruin it by adding the Commusician logo onto there, however great we think it is.
Yeah, absolutely, and that should be good fun.
Yeah.
Who else have we got?
So we've got a few Fitzhenrys to give a shout out to, which I will do shortly. So again, thank you to my family for getting in touch. But Terry Hall. So Terry, I haven't seen for many years, but Terry went to a cracking first gig, which was at the Blue Tones at Exeter Uni in the Great Hall. That was in 1996, and he said that the support act was a band called Geneva, and I told my mates they would be as big as Oasis. Shows what I know. Brilliant. Now,
amazing.
As we've established, I'm not necessarily the world's biggest music buff. Part of the reason I'm really excited to do this podcast is to learn more. But I have heard of Oasis. Haven't heard of Geneva.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think that goes along with pretty much everybody else out there. I don't think, Geneva aren't a thing, are they?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a place. I definitely know that. So either they got stratospherically successful and ended up being so big that they just became a town. But I think that's probably unlikely.
Yeah, quite unlikely. Absolutely. So Nick P. Page, Fuzzbox at Cheltenham Town Hall.
Okay, now I think Nick Page might be our highest profile listener so far. So do let us know if you're not. Obviously, most people are usually a bit shy about the old humble brag, but in this instance, if you are high profile, let us know. Share the love. We'd be really interested. But Nick Page, you may remember or recognise. So Nick's a fantastic comedian, and you may have seen him on the semi-finals, no less, of Britain's Got Talent.
I'm going to check him out now.
Absolutely, yeah. He's fantastic. So
thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for getting in touch, Nick, you ledge. But yeah, he went to see Fuzzbox at Cheltenham Town Hall, and I have not heard of Fuzzbox or been to Cheltenham Town Hall, so
very good.
I fear the relatable content from my side may dry up there. But again, what a legend! Thanks for getting in touch.
Absolutely.
Some stonkers actually coming in. I mean, the next one is humongous, and I can't comprehend this being a first ever gig. You think about the potential list of people that you could go and see, and Chris Davies went to Cardiff Arms Park. Get this, Sam, his first act that he saw live, it's only flipping Michael Jackson.
I know, how mental is that? Like, your first ever gig, the first gig you experience is like the king of pop.
Yeah,
like, that's just mad,
mate. We've got a lot still to read out, but I don't think we can beat it.
No, that took a while, but that's
you didn't even get it.
I didn't get it. No,
oh, mate, that's a zinger right there.
It's only because you were going that I then cottoned on to. Oh yeah, there's a joke there. That's
how all the best jokes work, mate. You've just got to kind of explain them. That's why I'm so successful, so big in the game.
And that's why I need a year to prepare.
We'll help you, my friend. We'll help you.
Absolutely. So, where are we at? Jane Capel, Duran Duran, Shepton Mallet, Showering Pavilion. She reckons it must have been the early 80s. Now,
did you say Showering Pavilion? I love the fact that you can't read the word show ring. Um,
I'm gonna cut that because
we're not, mate. Duran, Shepton Mallet, Showering Pavilion. Brilliant.
I'm just going to cut Jane Capel. There it is.
No, Jane Capel deserves to be in, and we appreciate you getting in touch, Jane. But yeah, so that would have been early '80s. Again, I mean that's an absolutely humongous shout for a first gig. Shepton Mallet, I know they've got a big. God, this is showing my age, but when I was a bit younger and cooler, Shepton Mallet, I think it's a showground. They've got a showground there, right?
Yes, they have. Yeah.
I went to a few drum and bass raves there. God, I was cool. I miss those days.
Pulled up in your Corsa.
I wasn't lucky enough to have a Corsa, mate, but I was friends with bigger boys, so they drove me in theirs. So moving on, thank you Jane, thank you everyone, of course. Alison Watson, now this is a humdinger zinger. So Alison Watson is her first gig was in New Zealand. It was at the Athletic Park in Wellington, and it was Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, that's huge.
That is huge, and there are rumours that there will be bigger bands coming. So you can get them, mate. You are capable of getting the references. That's good. Nice work.
I am. That's very good. That was very good. I'm impressed with that.
You're good.
Absolutely,
you just needed one to wake up, didn't you?
I'd love to see Fleetwood. I really would.
Oh, mate.
There
were so many rumours. Sorry, pardon the pun, but the first one was intentional. That one wasn't. But there were so many rumours that they would be getting back together for stuff like Glastonbury, and you kind of you hope beyond hope that it would happen. But yeah, as of yet hasn't. But who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Very quickly, if I may, it's just popped into my mind. Have you seen? Obviously, we're deep in the midst of coronavirus chaos, and I don't know if you've seen Liam Gallagher on Twitter.
I have, yeah, doing his washing hand songs.
So washing hand songs also, but more importantly, just basically calling out Noel and saying, right, come on, Noel, lad, let's get back together for the NHS.
I didn't see that.
Oh, mate, imagine.
Oh, man.
I would absolutely love it.
That would be the only good thing to come out of coronavirus. Would be an Oasis reunion.
I mean, did you hear last night how they were clapping for the NHS at 8 o'clock?
I did. I was here with my window open. My entire street was shouting and clapping.
Yeah, which is great.
It was amazing. I
think that's something that's good to come out of the NHS, but good to come out of the crisis, corona crisis. That's the word I was looking for earlier. But yeah, I 100% agree. Sod the NHS. If Oasis get back together, it's way bigger.
Wow.
I'm joking. I love the NHS.
I don't condone that thought, but sure.
No, I don't either. But you did have a laugh. So, like I said earlier, if the humour outweighs the harshness,
then it's worth it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Right, moving on to Bryn Daniel Thomas. Comedy-wise, he can't be sure, as I've seen over 100 gigs, but possibly Al Murray. I know I saw him very early on. Music-wise, it would have been Pete Tong in a club night in Ibiza.
Wow.
That is impressive.
What a duo, by the way, to have never been to a gig before, and the first comedy you see is Al Murray. So that I know that Bryn's obviously been to many gigs, so that was presumably Al Murray kind of early on. But even so, what a way to first see live stand-up comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then music wise, I've never really been to a gig before, so I'm just gonna fly out to Ibiza and just go to a club night and go see Pete Tong. I mean, what an absolute hero.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Pete Tong. That's what like you say, what a duo. Couldn't be better.
I love that. that. We've got another one from Kaylee, who went with my sister actually. So Kaylee said, "Ooh, mine was the Spice Girls with Naomi. Can't remember where though." And then Naomi chipped in with Birmingham NEC. Again, if you're going to break your duck, as it were, going to a gig, something massive like the Spice Girls, I mean, that must have just been monumental.
Oh, it would have been huge. I couldn't imagine like the first gig with, that thousands and thousands of people there.
So what year were you born?
92.
So see, I was when Spice Girls were kind of a big thing, which I think was kind of 96, 97-ish. It was around the time of the Euros, I remember. But I remember going to the cinema to see the Spice movie. Just, I think everyone probably did. But it was, they were just absolutely massive. It was a whole new kind of world, It was a very different time. Oh God,
certainly was.
I'm one step away from saying, well, it wasn't like that in my day. But yeah. So what a shout! Amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for letting us know. Love that.
Jonathan Ralph Whitaker. He went to see the Foo Fighters. Amazingly, I spelled it Fop Fighters.
Yes,
at the Birmingham NEC in 2005.
Nice.
That would be my dream first gig.
Yeah, if you could choose a first gig, that I know that would be yours, 100%.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely.
So here's a quick question that I haven't prepared for or you for, but if you could see any act, living or dead, now, who would it be?
Probably Jimi Hendrix.
Nice. Okay.
Or
fair
either Jimmy or Nirvana.
Okay, that's a fair one.
Yeah. I wouldn't if like they had a show on that night, both at exactly the same time. I don't know how I would decide.
Yeah. That's tough. That is a tough one.
What was yours? Yeah.
Do you know what? I honestly think at the moment, I haven't thought about this very much, but at the moment, I honestly think it'd be Oasis. Like if I had a chance to see Oasis, I would just be absolutely over the moon. I've been really lucky, and perhaps we'll come onto this in another episode. But I've seen some incredible acts, and but yeah, Oasis, that would be for me. Cool.
For sure. Absolutely.
Nice. Sorry, random train of thought there, but I thought it might be interesting.
Absolutely fine.
So I reckon just before we move on to the bread and butter of the episode, as it were, we've had one more, which I think seems like a fairly fitting way to end this section, if I may. So. This is from Lynn Cannon, and shout out to Lynn. Lynn is one of our European listeners, and currently possibly our furthest flung listener as well, who is based down in Italy. So first of all, huge love to you at the moment, and thoughts with you, and hope you and yours are all safe and well. And second of all, thank you for this. This is an absolute beaut of a story. So
this is a belter.
It is, isn't it? So if I may, I'll do the honours. So comedy-wise, years ago, I went on a blind date. That's all another story. To the Comedy Store in Covent Garden. Now, before we move on, what a place to go, A, on a first date, and B, on a blind date. That's amazing, right? So we were the last two allowed in and had to sit separately. At the end of a fairly average show, everyone started to file out, and I just stayed in my seat waiting for the gallant young man to come and find me. Suddenly, the compere comes running onto the stage, calling everyone back inside, as there was a special friend who wanted to say hello. We were then treated to an hour-long show by Robin Williams, and the place was only half full by this point. Robin Williams, mate.
That's huge.
That is absolutely massive. It was so long that I missed the last tube home and had to succumb to the delights of the night bus, but it was fab. Never went to the Comedy Store or saw the said gallant young man again. Wow.
That is absolutely amazing. Imagine just going to watch a gig.
Yeah.
Like just a random gig with just some local comedy acts, and then Robin Williams comes out.
I mean, it's the equivalent nowadays of, I'm trying to think of kind of a huge American artist, but it's the equivalent of going to, the Comedy Store now and seeing, some great acts, and I know that there's loads of great acts out there, but and then as you're about to leave and half the people have left, all of a sudden you get a message, oh, come back, and like, I don't know, Chris Rock or Kevin Hart or,
Dave
someone,
Chappelle or someone, yeah.
Someone of that, like, massive kind of profile. Oh mate, just incredible. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much for letting us know, Lynn. Really appreciate that.
What a share. Yeah, we thank you very much for that. And that's the kind of, those sort of stories, they happen in this world, and we want to hear about them, and we will share them. So if you've got any cool stories out there, then do get in touch. Do let us know, either on the socials at commusicianpod, or email us commusicianpod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And we'll read them out. if they're of that caliber.
This is, I mean, if they're of that caliber, yeah, small disclaimer. Could we? This might be a nice kind of way to have an ongoing feature. But if you've got a story like that, and you know, obviously that's a fantastic story. But if you've got like a chance meeting or something that's happened that you were in that example there, you know, you went along to one thing and then completely by chance you ended up seeing Robin Williams, you know. If you've got any stories like that, then please do get in touch, and A, we'll read them out, and B, you know, if we can come up with a way of awarding a prize, you know, maybe we could do Commusician pens or something cooler. I'm just thinking that, you know, the world of comedy is screwed at the moment, so anything low budget is going to work well with me. But yeah, do get in touch, and we'd love to hear from you.
And we'll send you a pen.
Or pencil.
Just
let us know. commusicianpod@gmail.com. Love it.
Very good.
So first gigs, it is like we've kind of touched on earlier on, you know, the first gig you ever went to is massive. It's part of becoming a grown-up, I think. And so with that in mind, who was your first gig, mate? What was the first act you ever went to see live?
My first gig was Elvis.
Elvis?
Yeah, admittedly, he wasn't there.
Right, okay, I was going to say,
yeah. He was dead at this point.
Right, yeah.
But no, they
had pretty bleak.
It would have been. You're right. So they had him like on a projector behind, and it was his touring band.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So his touring band was still playing the music, and then it was just like you could see him like singing behind.
Oh, so like, is it Whitney Houston having the hologram thing at the moment?
Yeah, they like Whitney, but way less, like way lower tech.
Okay, cool. like a cardboard cutout.
Yeah. Very, very similar to a cardboard cutout.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Can you remember? I mean, what can you remember about it? How old would you have been?
I would probably have been maybe 10 or 11, I would have thought.
10 or 11. Okay, nice. So,
yeah.
And where was it?
It was the NEC in Birmingham.
Was it? So it was over here? I thought you meant you were over in America.
No. I have seen plenty of gigs over there because I went there a lot as a child. But yeah, my first one would have been Elvis's band in the NEC, and they were amazing. It was, you know, we were set up quite high because it was very expensive, and my parents, you know, had 2 kids to pay for as well. But it was really, really good. It was, you can just see that the band members, I remember just like watching them and how much passion they've still got in doing it.
Yeah, of course.
Like they're not there just making money. They're there because, you know, Elvis was iconic. He was a massive message to the people, and it was phenomenal. So,
playing devil's advocate here, because I'm a fan of Elvis, you know, I think obviously some of his music is incredible, but if you were in a band, and I mean it's fair to say Elvis would have been the centerpiece of the band, you know, the lead singer, the main attraction. If you're in a band and the main attraction you know, passed away or quit or whatever, and you had the opportunity to carry on gigging and making money, would you?
It's an interesting question, and it kind of, there's 2 ways that you can do it. If you want to remain in music, you could do it either the Elvis's band way,
right,
where you go, he's an icon, let's put him on a big screen, or you could go the Dave Grohl way.
Yeah.
And they could have done that with Nirvana. They could have had Kurt up there and those 2 carried on playing, or the 3 of them carried on playing, but it wouldn't have worked. So it's just like, you know what, let's start a new project. And I would probably go with the start a new project. What about you? What was your first gig?
So my first gig as a fan, I was going to say as a punter, but as a fan, was I'm pretty lucky actually, because I think it's quite a cool one. So when I was growing up, I had a really eclectic taste in music, to be honest, and I could just as easily be listening to kind of drum and bass as I could be to Stevie Wonder or Marvin Gaye or the Drifters or, you know, whatever, or Elvis, any of that stuff. But in fact, the first band I ever went to see was Incubus.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good gig.
It was a very good gig, yeah. It was sadly a very long time ago, so I don't really remember it as well as I would like. Oh God, how old would I have been? So, oh mate, so I reckon I would have been 16. It was in Cardiff, and I now realise as I'm saying words out loud that is over half my life ago. That makes me immeasurably sad. But yeah, so Incubus, very very cool. You know, I listened to quite a lot of stuff, quite a lot of music, which again I guess we'll kind of cover at another time. But Incubus, I just loved the fact that they could be really really heavy. You know, they could have there's an album, Science, for example, and there's a song on there called Favorite Things, and I just absolutely love it. It's an excuse to just, I don't want to use the phrase go mental, but you know, it just kind of almost mosh, you know, yourself. God, I sound so old and out of touch, I'm sure, but yeah, I love the fact that you can just kind of listen to it and bang your head, and it's really cool. And then on the other side of it, they've got some really cool tracks, like Make Yourself and Drive, and it's a totally different kind of acoustic style. But yeah, very very lucky, I guess, to have that as a first gig. And I think actually the reason for that would have been I didn't go with my parents or anything like that. I went with my mates. So, you know, shout out to my mum being cool enough to let me at the age of 16 go.
Yeah, I was going to say actually, because 16 at an Incubus gig, it's quite young considering some of their music. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure you could have got squashed.
I think I was always a couple of years cooler than everyone else anyway. And
when did it go the other way around then?
Very nice, very nice. But yeah, so I mean, I was kind of mates with bigger boys, for want of a better phrase. And,
bigger boys.
Bigger boys, yeah. So, you know, I had mates when I was 16.
So
I had
cute.
mates who were 18, for example. So I was going to, again, this sounds like a really odd humble brag, but I was lucky enough that I could get served. I was in Devon, so I don't think laws of the UK really cared that much. But yeah, so I was going to pubs when I was kind of 16, 17, and therefore, you know, my mates were a little bit older. So yeah, I just remember, I think we drove up in, again, a bigger boy's car, and we kind of stayed in a hostel in Cardiff, and yeah, it was just lovely. I remember it being really sunny. Actually, I don't remember much about it because, like I said, old man Fitzy here, it was a long time ago, but yeah, it was amazing, and it was a really cool kind of, I just remember going into the gig and just seeing all these people on the stage and thinking like, wow, this is amazing. And the only kind of similarity, or the only thing that I can compare it to, I guess, is the first time I went to Old Trafford to watch Man United, and you kind of go up the steps and you look out and you see the pitch for the first time, and it's like that at a gig. You know, you go in, you see the stage, you see the band for the first time, and life isn't the same after that, I don't think, because you know how good it can be, and you know that this world exists, a world that you had only ever kind of seen on TV before, I guess.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And that is a really, really good point, because I don't think I really wanted to play live music until I really started going into the shows. Like, I was so happy just, you know, as a kid, kind of playing my guitar in my bedroom sort of thing. And then you start to go to the shows and you're just like, actually, that looks so much fun. Yeah. Like, people are coming to hear me. I want that.
Well, that's again another seamless segue, I would say.
Set up beautifully.
It was really nice, yeah, very well done. But I'd love to know more about kind of how you went from, you know, as you said, I think you used the term a bedroom guitarist, bedroom bassist. There you go.
Bedroom bassist, yeah, you know.
But so yeah, talk to me about that. What kind of got you into gigging, I guess?
I guess it was just going to see lots of different shows. I think when I had my bass in my room, I went to kind of college, and I did a few gigs at college. I was in as I think I said in episode 1, I was in a couple of different bands that didn't really go anywhere, but we always had the idea of how great would it be for this to go live and us to hit the road with it, but never really did. And then I don't know, I just got a bit itchy for it, I guess is the easiest way to say it. It was just kind of, it just wasn't enough just to play in my bedroom on my own anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of, it wasn't until like Dirty Blueprint where I had my first proper live gig. Like I said, I did little shows in college. And I did, a few little bits here and there, but never before had I played some of the gigs that me and Dirty Blueprint have played now. It's been phenomenal, but my kind of the reason of getting into it was, like I say, just watching those bass players and the band members up there just as a unit, like.
So there must be a real difference between, and again, I'm probably going to sound at various points throughout this podcast, I'm probably going to sound really kind of naive, but I guess there must be a real difference playing with other people. Does that make sense? As opposed to kind of just playing at home to a track.
Oh,
is that a stupid thing to say?
No, 100%. It's so when you come to gigging with the drummer, for example, the timings change in a song.
Right.
When you're playing live, you might all get excited and then start playing it a little bit faster towards the end.
Yeah.
If you're playing at home to a metronome and you can practice that perfectly, that's fine, but it doesn't set you up to play in a band. Like because timings change, because you get excited or you want to slow it down or something like that, you're just not quite ready for it. I think, which is one of the reasons why I hadn't played a really decent first gig until Dirty Blueprint came along.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's been really good. And I guess my first gig with Dirty Blueprint was it was at a place called the Reaper Bar in Weston-super-Mare. And
did you die?
we didn't die. No, we were.
I should have said, was it grim? Damn it, Fitz. Good opportunity there. Idiot.
It's okay. We'll let you off. Maybe if you're clever enough, you can go back and edit it. So then my laugh and the grim bit just seamlessly go in.
Yeah, I don't reckon I've got time on my hands.
So we're at the Reaper Bar, and it was such a cool gig. We were on second to last. Every band kind of used each other's kit for that, apart from guitars.
Okay, yeah.
But the main band were just like, no, you're not touching our gear, and wanted to set up afterwards. So there was about a 20-minute half hour break in between us and the main act.
Oh right, yeah.
But what it meant is that it was so late that everybody was just like, oh, do you know what? We're kind of done.
Oh no.
But it was great for us because everybody was coming up saying, guys, that was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But they
then they were leaving.
Yeah, so we had to, and we always do anyway. We always make sure that we stay behind to watch all the bands. But the main band basically just played to us.
Oh God.
Which for us we felt great, but for the main band they must have felt awful.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's a similar thing to if you I've run quite a few kind of new material nights. It doesn't happen so much on pro nights because the last act of the night is the headliner, but quite often people will come along to new material nights and perhaps they'll be there to see their friend. Or what the worst thing to happen is if people overrun and do longer than their time, then it really messes with the schedule. And what it can mean is that I've done gigs with some phenomenal comics who've travelled from Manchester or Birmingham to go to, but when I lived in Bath, and they will have travelled a long way, but because people have overrun and the night's overrun, a lot of people have left, and you just think, oh God, it's such a shame. So it has a real knock-on effect, and obviously in that instance they could have avoided it by, I guess, not being selfish with their material, their equipment. Is that right? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, if they, the way
or precious, I should say, not selfish.
Yeah, the perfect gig setup. If you're, if we're headlining, we'll set up all our gear up, and we'll just say to the other bands, like, you can use our gear if you want.
Right.
And then that way there is no changeover time. You just go in, you plug your guitar in, and you're gone.
So I get that, and I get that would obviously be useful. But I mean, I think if it was me, again, these aren't cheap bits of kit. So you could spend potentially, I don't know, hundreds of pounds on a guitar, or probably more. Thousands. So yeah, I can kind of get them not wanting other people to necessarily mess with their stuff. But yeah, that's an interesting one. Again, trying to find a comparison in the world of comedy. very rarely do people turn up and say, "This is my mic. I'm going to use this one, please." But perhaps after this whole Corona situation, maybe they'll have to. Maybe that'll be like a new thing.
It might be the new law. Bring your own mic.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah. Amazing!
What a world. Yeah. So yeah, first gig was a great one, and it was one of those gigs as well. It kind of set me up for. I was just like, oh my god, we've hit this nail on head. Like, there were beer in the fridge backstage, there was loads of room, it was just the best. You couldn't picture a better gig. We had our logo behind us, on a projector. It was just amazing. Like, I was set for that. I was just like, yeah, this is how every gig is going to be.
This is how comedy, this is how music is. Great.
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly. Turns out it's not like that at all. Like, our next gig was like, it was just the worst thing ever, just a corner of a pub. It was gross.
Would you, just on the subject of green rooms very quickly, would you mix with other bands in the green room? Is that the kind of thing? Because with comedians, you go to a gig, and if you've got a green room, that's obviously where you chat with the other acts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting one. We went to Dublin last year, and we had the most amazing green room that you could ever possibly imagine. Like, beer piled high. They like emailed us and said, "What do you want? We'll make sure that it's in there." It was
the
absolute
dream.
Yeah, it was the absolute dream, and it was a big like blues rock festival that we were playing. And we sat in the green room and expected everybody to kind of come in and chat and mingle. So many bands didn't.
Wow.
The only band, and I'm happy to shout them out, were the 502s. They're called, and you can check them out everywhere. They're from America in Florida, and they were so much fun. We spent our night pretty much talking to those guys in the green room, and then just like mingling with the crowd outside. But every other band would come in, like drop their stuff off and go, and just leave.
Wow.
And I just
not a social bunch.
What was your first gig, Fitz?
Really good question. One that I was expecting. So my first gig as a comedian came about because I was in a similar position to yourself, really. I went along to gigs. So I grew up in Devon, but I moved up to Bath when I was about 21. And when I moved up there, I started just kind of going out, and I'd go to gigs and I would see stand-ups performing. And when I say stand-ups, I mean I would see people standing up in front of me. And sometimes that was as good as it got. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting, because beforehand I'd always thought that if you were going to be a comedian, you just had it. You're either a comedian or you're not, and you had this innate skill that meant that you could do it. Whereas actually the reality is, that you can, to an extent, you can learn how to be a comedian. You can learn how to craft jokes. You can learn stagecraft. You can learn how to find material out of things. There's loads of exercises that we will cover. So I went along to some gigs, saw some people be, if I'm honest, not very good, and I thought, cool, I'm pretty sure I can stand on stage for 10 minutes and not be very good, and it turns out I could. Who knew? So I went along to kind of an open mic thing and basically just said, look, is there any chance I could come and do a gig? And I was in a bit of a workshop environment, so I did essentially I found out about a comedy course that you could do. I don't know if you've ever heard of such a thing.
No, never before.
I mean, you can probably guess the premise of it.
But come learn how to be funny.
Essentially, I think it was like an 8 or 12 week thing where you'd go along once a week, and you'd have some time where you learn some theory, and then you'd have some time every week where you actually go on stage and you say stuff. And I found it really, really useful. It was a really good opportunity to not only learn things, and this was a long time ago. I mean, I thought I was trying to think about how long I've been gigging, and I think I forget that time moves. So this is probably nearly my 10th year of gigging,
wow,
which is bonkers. Time just disappears. But I think actually I started in 2012, so I've been gigging for 8 years. But yeah, I did this kind of workshop and was told that there's certain things that are really important, and one of them is persona. So your kind of persona on stage kind of defines who you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So, for example, you'll have someone like Jack D. So Jack D would be a kind of downbeat comedian. It's called low status. So the world is kind of against you. He's like a famous kind of grump. Yeah, and oh no, this is no. Does that make sense?
That was beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. If Jack D's listening, that's not an impression of you. That's just an impression of a generic downbeat person. But hopefully it gets the point across. And then you've got high status. Which is obviously someone who's the opposite, so they're kind of high status is they're in charge of the situation, they're in control, and
like a Catherine Ryan sort of person.
Yeah, really, really great example. Yeah, Catherine Ryan, I would say, is very much high status. The stage is hers, and you can go along for the ride, and if you don't want to, then tough S. But yeah, so she's great. And then you've got kind of audience's mate, which is somewhere in the middle. So I was some would say I'm still trying to find my comedic voice, but yeah, I feel more comfortable being in that kind of audience's mate bracket. So
yeah. Nice. Oh, that's cool, man. That's really cool. And is that how most comedians will get started then, doing open mics?
Yeah, so not necessarily a comedy course. I know quite a few people who have done them, and I was very lucky that the one I did was by a couple of people. So a gentleman called Chris Head, who is a stand-up kind of and performance coach, very, very good at what he does, very good at the craft. And then it was also hosted or co-hosted by a chap called Jeff Whiting. So Jeff runs probably one of, if not the biggest comedy agencies in the UK, called Mirth Control. And Mirth Control are really, really good at helping out newer acts. So most of the acts that you will know from the circuit will have done gigs for Mirth Control at some point. So I was very lucky in that, I went on this course. We did our first gig, which was in front of friends. I said some stuff that I was really proud of. I said some stuff that I'm not very proud of at all. But it kind of went well enough that I got the bug, and then I was fortunate, having known Jeff and worked with Jeff, i.e. he helped me learn. When I did a few more open mics, then I was able to start applying for what we call open spots. So you and I have spoken about exposure, but when you're starting out in anything, whether you're a graphic designer or you're a videographer or you're a comedian, you have to learn how to do it, and you have to prove that you can do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
And the only way that you can learn comedy, 100% the only way you can learn it, is by going out there and doing it. And so you don't get paid initially. And I saw on my Facebook memories, I don't know, about a month ago or something, and it said a post from, I think it was about 7 years ago, 7 years, something like that. And it said, just got my first ever paid spot. And, I'd been gigging for at least a year until I got that first paid gig. Yeah.
That's mad. Because as a band, you can, or even just a singular musician, you can learn your set.
Of course.
And then just kind of go out and, you can go to a cafe, you can go to a bar, you can go to a pub, and they'll put you on for, if it's a 4-piece band, £200 plus.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that's I guess a difference, but you would have had to, that's a good question. Your first kind of gig with Dirty Blueprint, DB, would that have been a paid one?
So most of ours aren't paid, even though I just said that. And the reason being is because it's original music.
Okay, yeah.
So covers bands can very easily get paid.
Yeah,
because that's what people want to hear. when
and
you're
people
an
know what they're getting to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. When you're an originals band, they don't know that, and the original nights are there, so you can find your crowd. So you don't really, you tend not to get paid as much. What you do to kind of subside that is you'll learn a few covers. So like we've got a 2-hour set that we can put out there, no problem at all. We'll go and play a pub, and we'll earn £200 for our kitty to then take us on tour, so we can then afford to do 3 gigs essentially.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah, there's ways and means.
Very nice, very nice. I mean, I feel probably kind of progressing up the ladder is a topic all of itself. But but yeah, so that was the first gigs. That was my kind of first foray. That's the word I'm looking for into the world of comedy, and like I said, just the same as for yourself, and I suspect for any of our comedy and musician chums, I suspect you got the bug. You got bitten by the bug, and that's it. Now we're in.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's really interesting because especially from music side. And do you face this in comedy? I'm at a point now where I would like to play more live shows. So I'm thinking of learning different styles of music. Would a comedian do that to be able to then venture to a different kind of gig, or?
That's a really good question. So there are kind of different types of gigs, but comedy is very, or should be really very kind of meritocratic in that, if you're good enough, then you will get booked for gigs. So I know loads of people who I have worked with who, when we started out, were either at the same level or at similar levels, and there's people who, again, I'm lucky enough to call kind of friends, colleagues, who I've seen just go on to really great things. So there are different types of gigs for sure. Obviously open mics is where you cut your teeth and where you start. New material nights are important for even pro acts, but yeah, there are different gigs. However, you wouldn't necessarily go, as a comedian, you wouldn't necessarily go to a different type of gig as a way of improving your knowledge, I guess, or learning more. But what you would do is, you would graduate to go and do big clubs, like Glee, or back in the day, Jongleurs, Comedia up in Bath and Brighton. They're a really good club. Or obviously stuff like the Comedy Store. They're mentioned earlier on in the pod, but that part of the aim, I guess, for most comics would be to get to a point where you can work in places like that. So yeah, that would be the difference, I guess. But to get there and to get work in places like that, you will do hundreds of and hundreds of different types of gigs. So gigs above pubs, gigs in like little weird village halls in the middle of nowhere, and every act that you will have heard of, every TV act, will most likely have done some of those weird gigs at some point.
Yeah. No, cool, man. Well, that's well answered.
Probably not very concisely answered, but well nonetheless. But
very well answered.
I think that brings certainly our first gig experience to a close. Would you say?
I would say. The one thing I have left to say is, if anybody out there has a really cool first gig as a performer, then please get in touch, and we'll try and read it out next episode.
It's for sure.
commusicianpod@gmail.com. We want to hear your stories of your first gig as a performer. Anything that happened that was funny, anything that you didn't expect to happen. Just get in touch and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And likewise, do still kind of get in touch if you're listening to this and think, hey, they want to know what, or they ought to know what my first gig was as a punter. Then yeah, please let us know, because
absolutely,
we'd love to hear from you all.
At Commusician Pod on the socials as well.
It certainly is. Well, thank you, mate. This has been a real pleasure. I'm sorry we're not able to hug at the end as is customary, and to cheers our pints together, but this has been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to us I'm looking forward to us doing this much more, and look forward to that day in the distance when we can be together again.
In the middle of June, where we can run and hug like a romantic scene.
It feels like a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I will catch you on the next phone call pod.
Yes, man. Look after yourself, stay safe, and guys, thank you so much for listening. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And enjoy. Be safe. Enjoy what is hopefully sunshine, but responsibly, and look after yourselves. And we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Look after yourself, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Con Musician Pod. Intro music was Gangster Life by Dirty Blueprint. This podcast was brought to you by Fitz and Sam. See you next week.